Bandsaw boxes. Bandsaw boxes are simply cut out of a single chunk of wood. You start with something that looks like this, and you end up eventually with something that looks like this. Nice, isn't it? Sort of a dolphin shape there. But all you do is cut this apart and to make pieces, and then glue them back together, discarding some pieces, keeping others until you get a box. The nice thing about making bandsaw boxes is you know absolutely, positively that no matter how closely you follow or don't follow the lines, whatever you decide to do, the parts are going to fit. If you make a wavy cut, you will have the exact opposite over here, and the two will fit together, absolutely. The problem with bandsaw boxes is that when you glue things back together, there are a lot of end grain to long grain and end grain to end grain cuts. And even though you don't have to worry about it shrinking and swelling, because it does it as one big block, you do have to worry about the strengths of the joints. So bandsaw boxes tend to be small boxes. I've got 4 examples here that I want to show you. Let's start with something really simple. This is, or was, a log. Just a piece of firewood. And I cut off the 2 ends, then cut out the middle. I have the middle here somewhere. Here we go, right here. I cut out the middle and then put it all back together so that when I hinge it, it will open like you see right here. I'll probably leave the bark on, although the bark does tend, as these things dry out, the bark may fall off, but you can just glue the bark back on. In fact, I know of a turner who likes to leave the bark on, and he lets the wood dry until the bark is coming off. Then he peels it off on purpose, because what happens right there between where the bark and the wood is, you have a thin line of cells called the cambium, which are live cells, and these will let go of the bark sooner or later as the wood dies and they dry up. So my friend just simply peels the bark off, glues it right back on, and that's the end of that. Okay, from that, here's a simple little square box. Now this was once upon a time a piece of bubinga, and I cut it up into little tiny slabs. We had just gotten our Craig fence here, and I was testing it for accuracy and ease, and took this little piece of bubinga, and as you can see, it's just a simple lid on top there. Put the lid, and inside the box is yet another piece of bubinga, which I cut up into another box, and then finally a third box. You can keep going ad infinitum like Russian dolls if you want to. You'll notice if you take a look at the blackboard, you'll see that I put up some pictures there of boxes and animated GIFs. If you take a look at the simple box, you'll see that the top and the bottom are cut off first, and you may think that's strange. Normally we hide the bottom up inside the sides, but this is part of what you have to think about as you make these boxes. The bottom, if you as you're cutting these slabs, if you cut away the sides first and then cut the bottoms, you've got a 16th inch gap all around the bottom, and you'll have to do some sort of deformation of the sides in order to get them to come together. You'll have a whole lot less shrinkage to deal with if you simply put the bottom on the outside and then sand off. And the bottom too helps hold the sides together. Okay, this is another piece of firewood. It actually came from this chunk right here. I cut this apart and made a box just like the other ones with a lid. But instead of making nesting boxes, I took the inside chunk and made a little tray that fits in the top right there. Now here's something interesting. This illustrates what I was telling you about the fact that no matter how you cut, things are going to fit together. Take a look. Get a little closer to the camera here at that tray. Notice that it is nowhere near square. The sides are curved and bowed. It's sort of trapezoidal, it sort of looks like a bloated parallelogram, I guess. And so does the box, and yet the tray fits just fine inside the box. You don't have to worry about things fitting as long as you don't do anything that purposely to create parts that where you remove too much stock and things don't go back together just right. You can see here that not only do the parts fit, but they fit snugly. Look at how snug that top fits on that box. This is because all of these pieces shrink or come together the same amount. You lose that 16th inch gap every time you make a kerf, but all the parts lose them, so everything shrinks by the same amount. Let's see. This box right here is a box with a drawer in it. I've showed you this before. Here you have it's really just a box within a box. But this time you don't need to make the sides straight. So far you've been looking at slab sides. Here the back is a slab that we cut off the block. The two sides of the drawers are slabs, but the actual piece that forms the box itself is a little bit of freeform bandsawing, as is the divider and the sides inside the box itself. Again, a little bit of freeform bandsawing right there. All fits together very nicely. This is just something that was stuck on at the last minute to give it a pull. The thing that you need to worry about when making bandsaw boxes overall is making your cuts in the correct order. Okay, you have to think about what you're about to make, the parts you want, how they're going together, and then cut accordingly. I don't want to spend a lot of time letting you watch me saw. So what I have done here is I have taken just an ordinary cube. This is a big cube of walnut, and I have cut it apart, and I'm going to show you the order in which this box was made. Now, one of the things too is you'll notice as I start peeling these parts apart is they are nicely labeled. Every part I label before I take it off the box. This is going to be the top of the box. This mark indicates that this is the front, this is the back. If I need to indicate whether it's right side or left side, it's there. If I need to indicate if this were a side, that this was the top and this was the bottom, the marks are there. All the marks are right there on the box for me to see and help get it back together. Otherwise, this can really take a great deal of mental strain just trying to match the grain to bring it back together. So, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Keep rolling on this. I need to reset the video mixer.
Okay.
So, there's a break. Sweet. So, I'm going to have to get this back up and running. Okay. Now, because it wouldn't let me switch channels. So, I had to...
You had to bring it down and bring it back up again?
Yeah. So, you're like, so, I think you're getting ready to get...
Well, why don't you just bring it back up on C, and then you can just fade from one to the other. The first thing that... Take a little bit more of a break.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Keep
All right.
room to edit.
Yeah. The first cuts that you want to make are to take off the top and the bottom. So we took off the top and the bottom. Put them over there. Those are all labeled. Okay. Next, you take off the front. Okay. And the back. Let's see, I can tape this together to keep it from falling apart on me. Now, once again, everything here that you're seeing is just a slab, but you can do, obviously, you can do any shape that you want. Then, you do the sides. Those come off. And finally, the last thing that you make on a simple box is from the top of the block, you cut the lid, or lip. This goes on the underside of the lid, okay, the lip goes on the underside of the lid and centers the box in the, or centers the lid on top of the box. Now, let's take this and move it to the back of the bandsaw table. And now we bring these parts together. Let's go for the bottom. This is the bottom. Now, notice that all the markings are on the outside. That's another thing that helps me. I know I can understand where these pieces go simply and how they were oriented simply because I know the markings are on the outside before I made the cut. Okay, the bottom goes there with the front here, and this would be the right side. Left side. And not to hold you in suspense, the back. Okay? You simply glue that together. If anything stands a little proud, and the bottom, since the front and the back are going to come in a 1/16 of an inch, obviously the bottom will stick out a little bit, so you just sand that off later on. You'll be surprised if you do a good job matching up the grain, you'll be surprised at how the seams just sort of seem to disappear. Now finally, we take the top and the top lip, okay, glue those together like this, and then that will fit right there on top of that box. Now, that's the procedure for the box itself. Let's see if you wanted to add a tray to this, you've got this left. All right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this part in half. This part will become the tray. Most of this will become waste, okay? Except for we're going to take all the tray supports, one off on this side and one on the other. These would be glued to the sides of the boxes on the inside, and they would create a ledge on which the tray would sit. So, so the tray doesn't drop down to the bottom. So this becomes waste, or another box. Let's go back here to the tray. And once again, we remove the bottom of the tray, and then we take off the front and the back. Okay? And we take off the sides. This should begin to look pretty familiar. Okay? And then, of course, we do something that causes it to fall apart. And then we patiently try to put it back together. Not working. Okay. Now, we need a divider inside the tray and something to use to lift it. On this particular one, I decided to do something a little different. There we go. I cut out these triangular blocks, bing, 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 like that, and made an X-frame that sits inside the tray. Come on, there we go. Creating not only some dividers, but I can reach right down there in the middle of the X and pick up the tray like that if I want to. Okay? Cool, huh? All right. Now, I am going to show you very quickly how to make a box, and I'm just going to take a couple of swipes here on the bandsaw, but I wanted to show you something neat, because in addition to this procedure that I just showed you, where you can make a box from a single block of wood, you can oftentimes mix it with another procedure that I showed you in another sawdust session called compound cutting. Compound cutting is where you make two cuts in two different planes on the bandsaw and create a three-dimensional shape. Let me show you a box that I did with compound cutting a while back. There we go. That neat? My wife likes to make Noah's Arks, and this was an attempt, and I think a very good attempt, at making a Victorian Noah's Ark. It was actually cut from two blocks of wood, the hull and the house. The hull was were two bandsaw cuts at a very slight angle to give the hull a little bit of a slope, and then we cut it from that the block that was left. We cut up the top and the bottom, or the bottom of the hull and the deck. Then we worked on this one and just whittled away piece after piece, gluing some pieces back together. You can see the top of the house lifts off, and there's a box right there to store animals, and then the bottom lifts off, there's another box to store even more animals, and finally inside the hull itself is yet another box, so there are yet more animals. Noah himself would have been proud, I'm sure. But that combines those two techniques. Now, obviously, this is longer. This takes longer to do than I have time to show you, but I am going to show you real quickly. I have made this. This is not yet finished yet, but I have made a wavy cut in this piece of wood, and then I have cut a teardrop shape in it This is just a simple little bit of compound cutting. Later on, I'll roll this over with a cabinet rasp. But right now, I'm going to cut the sides. I've already cut the bottom off, as you can see. And I'm going to cut the sides. Now, I want the sides to be relatively thin, and I want them to be uniform. I don't want them to go thick and thin on me. So I'm going to take a compass here, okay, adjust that to about 1/4 inch, and I'm going to use notice that on this compass, the point of the metal point of the compass, the pivot, leads the point of the pencil by about 1/8 inch. This allows me to take that, and I can make a nice, even mark there. That's exactly 1/4 inch away from the edge, all the way around that teardrop. Now, as I cut this, okay, first of all, I want you to understand something about the blade that I'm using. I'm using a 1/4 inch bimetal blade. It has 10 teeth per inch. I would get a faster cut if I used a skip tooth blade, but it would be much, much rougher. The 10 tooth per inch, that means I get an extra 4 cuts every inch. Scraping the wood is much smoother, so there's less sanding to do. Consequently, the pieces are going to fit better. Also, there's less work to do. The other thing about this is it's, I could get a 1/4 inch blade, which is a standard blade, but this is pretty thick stock, and with say 14 teeth per inch going through this, the gullets in between those teeth would be very small, and they would become packed with sawdust very quickly. The 10 tooth blade is a good compromise. The other thing that's nice about this particular blade is this is a bimetal blade. That blade, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about choosing bandsaw blades. The neat thing about bimetal blades is you can tension them. You can put a great deal more tension on them than ordinary blades. So I've got this blade, even though it's a 1/4 inch, tensioned as if it were a 3/8 inch. This helps me hold the blade straight as I'm making these cuts. Let's make this cut real quick. And normally I'd run the dust collector, but then then it would just, this video would just scream at you. Okay, there's the sides of this teardrop box. Where I entered, I'll just glue that back together, and you'll never even see that. If you could see close up, you would see that the sides are extremely smooth, except for those places where I stopped for a moment. If you can cut something like this all in one smooth cut, it's much better. Those places where I stopped and I dwelled, leave little lines, because what happens is as the blade stops and begins to run, it's also vibrating sideways, and so it cuts to the side. There's one last thing to do on this, and that is we need a lip for the lid. One of the reasons I like this teardrop shape is because you can stand it there on 2 points, and it's relatively stable as you're putting it through. If I do an oval or a circle, obviously it's not going to be as stable. Once again, I'm going to use the compass, and I'm going to mark this, just the part where I can see, so that I have something to follow as I do this. Line this up with a mark. I like the setup of this Craig fence. I've always used resaw fences that I've built myself, but this is a pretty neat little gizmo here. They have got there's a radius on this thing that holds your wood up, and this radius allows you to follow the line. You can tilt it back and forth, so you don't have to worry about whether or not your blade has any lead. By lead, does it cut more aggressively on one side or the other? Oftentimes, if you're doing resawing, you have to know what that the blade lead is, so that you can angle your fence to one side or the other. Here, you don't have to worry about it. You can just simply adjust your cut and follow the line as you go. Alright, this is the waist, or another box if you want it to be. Here's our sides. This is our bottom. Sides. Okay, lip and lid. There you go, very simple. Okay, let me clean up for a minute, and then let me talk to you a little bit about bandsaw blades.